The billionaire's scream shook the marble hallway. "Are you out of your mind? You burned my daughter's hand." The black maid froze, heart pounding, while the 5-year-old girl sobbed behind her. She hadn't meant to hurt her. She was teaching the child what warmth feels like, because the little girl had never spoken a word in her life. But all the father saw was pain, and all she felt was fear. In a house where money meant power, a black woman's truth meant nothing. If this already made your blood boil, hit like and subscribe right now, because stories like this are still happening, and the world needs to hear them. The night before the chaos, the mansion had been silent, the kind of silence that wrapped around everything like glass. Keisha, the black maid, sat beside little Lily, the billionaire's mute daughter, who hadn't spoken since birth. The girl's pale fingers traced the air, trying to understand words she couldn't say. Keisha smiled softly. "You don't have to see sound to feel it, baby." She lit the fireplace, letting the warmth glow across the room. "See that light?" she whispered, guiding Lily's tiny hand closer. "Warm means safe. Hot means danger. Feel that difference." The child blinked, curious, as her lips twitched for the first time. A breath, a spark, almost a word. For Keisha, this wasn't just a job, it was a purpose. She'd once been a teacher, before losing her position for standing up to injustice. And now, in this mansion full of marble and mirrors, she was trying to reach a child the world had already labeled hopeless. "Tomorrow," Keisha said, smiling as Lily leaned her head on her shoulder, "will teach the sun how to speak too." The next morning, everything shattered. The moment Lily's small hand brushed the hot glass, her cry echoed through the mansion. Before Keisha could even react, heavy footsteps thundered in. Mr. Carter, the billionaire father, stormed into the room. "You burned her?" he shouted, yanking his daughter into his arms. "I was teaching her," Keisha tried to explain, tears already filling her eyes. "Teaching? You're a maid, not a doctor," he barked. "Pack your things. You're done." His voice was colder than the marble beneath her knees. The staff standing nearby looked away. No one dared to defend her. They'd all seen this before. When truth and color collided, truth always bled first. Keisha fell to the floor, shaking. "Sir, please," she spoke. But he was already walking away, his pride louder than her pain. Outside, the world blurred through her tears. She clutched her small purse, heartbroken, hearing the mansion doors slam behind her. Then, through the echoing silence, a faint sound from the window above. A fragile, broken voice. "Ma!" Lily had spoken her first word, but no one was there to listen. "If this happened right in front of you, what would you do? Tell me in the comments. I read every one. And if you want justice as much as I do, hit subscribe." That night, the mansion was quiet again, but this time, guilt screamed louder than silence. Mr. Carter sat alone in his office, a glass of whiskey in his trembling hand, replaying the security footage from the living room. His eyes narrowed as the video showed Keisha kneeling beside his daughter, calm, patient, gentle, not reckless, not cruel. He saw her guiding Lily's hand, stopping before the glass, whispering softly, "That's warmth, sweetheart, not fire." Then Lily leaned too close out of curiosity. A brief yelp, a reflex, and then a word. "Mr." Carter's breath hitched. She spoke. His mute daughter spoke. The truth hit him like thunder. He paused the video, staring at Keisha's face. The fear, the pain, the humanity he had crushed under his own arrogance. His pride had destroyed the only person who had ever reached his child. For the first time in years, the billionaire felt small. Smaller than the woman he'd thrown out. Smaller than the word that had changed everything. Hot. The knock on Keisha's small apartment door came before sunrise. She opened it slowly, her eyes swollen, her hands still red from packing the night before. Outside stood Mr. Carter, the same man who had broken her spirit just hours ago. "I saw the footage," he said quietly, voice stripped of pride. "She spoke because of you." Keisha didn't move. "You already fired me, remember?" "I know," he whispered, "and I was wrong. I let my anger speak louder than the truth. He paused, guilt shaking his voice. Please come back. Not as a maid. As the one person my daughter actually listens to. For a moment, all she could do was stare, searching for any sign of sincerity. Then she saw it, regret, the kind that money couldn't hide. For Lily, she finally said, her voice steady. I'll come back for her. When they entered the mansion again, Lily sat by the fireplace, her tiny hand bandaged, her eyes searching for the voice she loved. Keisha knelt beside her. Hey, sweetheart, remember me? Lily tilted her head, then smiled faintly. Her lips parted. Maya, she whispered, the first clear word of her life. Mr. Carter dropped to his knees, tears streaming down his face. For the first time, his mansion didn't feel rich. It felt human. By the end of that week, reporters and doctors filled the mansion like vultures circling a story. Headlines whispered through social media. Unlicensed May experiments on billionaire's child. Dr. Monroe, the family's private physician, arrived with papers and polished arrogance. Mr. Carter, with respect, allowing a maid to conduct therapy could be considered negligence, he said coldly. Keisha kept silent, standing behind Lily, who played quietly with color blocks. She's not conducting therapy, Mr. Carter snapped. She's connecting with my daughter, something you never managed. Dr. Monroe's smirk faded. Hope is dangerous when it's unprofessional. Keisha finally spoke, voice firm. Hope is the only thing that's worked. Lily turned to her at that moment, holding a soft piece of fabric. Velvet, she whispered slowly. Everyone froze. The billionaire's eyes widened. She said velvet. Dr. Monroe's clipboard trembled. Keisha smiled gently. See? She doesn't need your charts, doctor. She just needs to be heard. Outside the mansion, the crowd was still shouting accusations. But inside, a small girl was teaching the world something money couldn't buy, compassion. Mr. Carter stood beside Keisha, voice shaking. They can write what they want. I know what I saw. Keisha looked at him, eyes glistening. Then let's show them the truth. The next morning, the mansion's front lawn turned into a sea of cameras and flashing lights. Mr. Carter stepped outside with Keisha and little Lily beside him. Reporters shouted questions. Is it true she faked it? Did you endanger your daughter? But the billionaire raised his hand for silence. She didn't endanger my daughter, he said firmly. She saved her. He turned toward Keisha. This woman gave my child a voice when science, money, and I all failed. The crowd murmured. Every camera turned toward the small black woman, standing in the billionaire's shadow. Keisha knelt in front of Lily, her voice trembling. Sweetheart, you can show them. Lily looked up, clutching her soft fabric square. She took a deep breath and whispered clearly, hard. Gasps rippled through the reporters. Tears welled in Mr. Carter's eyes. The same man who once shouted hate now covered his face in awe. Keisha smiled, brushing Lily's hair gently. That's right, baby, your heart spoke. For a moment, even the camera stopped clicking. The whole world had gone still, listening. If you believe this should never happen again, share this now. And to my USA, UK, and Canadian viewers, your voice is power. Use it.